Someone said that joy, Louis will like this, is the serious business of heaven. C.S. Lewis, some of you heard of him. So he said joy is a serious business of heaven. So when our sister Aubrey comes with a word about joy this morning, and then the worship team, I don't know if they had it planned or if it was a response to that, they came with a sort of a higher praise set than we have sometimes. It's fun and it's exciting and it makes us laugh and want to run together and enjoy one another. But I also think of that statement, because I think it's true, that joy is the serious business of heaven. So the other thing that I see when I see joy beginning to flare up in the house and the Lord beginning to speak about joy and high praise is that there's something very serious going on. So we need to seriously enjoy the joy, right? Someone once said, how do you give glory to a master chef? You enjoy the food. And how are we going to give glory to the Lord as we're going to enjoy the joy? We're going to embrace it. The thing that is going to show how serious of an element joy is to heaven is when the people of God are walking around so full of joy that the world just starts saying, now you're just showing off. Right? Now you're just showing off because you're walking in a level of joy and a level of peace that goes beyond the comprehension and that you only gain out of the Spirit. And so be encouraged, even if you're one who maybe is more bent towards some of the more contemplative style of worship, of sitting with the Lord, as I am sometimes as well, and maybe the big, can we call it a Jesus Jamboree? What was this? It had a little country flair. It had a little, you just know that God is wanting to introduce an element of joy and praise. And as far as it being spiritual enough for you, if it's not, we will get there. We'll catch up with you soon. So just try to enjoy what God is doing in whatever expression that He's bringing, and try to look at those expressions and say, the serious business of heaven, huh? This is time for us to really step forward and understand that the serious business of heaven is coming to the earth. The serious business of heaven is beginning to draw us into our greater identity and draw us into who we were truly made to be, and then begin to walk in an expression of that. I want to also say that we're going to get to some really good joy, but it's the beginning of this isn't going to sound like it. Let's talk about this. A lot of sarcasm here, okay? Let's talk about this wonderful Olympic show they had the other night, right? So here's the only reason I bring that up, not to go political, but I do believe it is part of the voice of the church's responsibility to speak into the culture, even if you are, we could put a buzzer, a 501c3 buzzer, and anytime one of us says anything that goes over the line, But the reality is that if you know what I'm talking about, where there was an open mockery of, the Last Supper, and there was many other things that had gone on as well that have all their satanic, demonic imagery. And that's okay, because as you guys know, it's always been there underneath the surface. So we are enjoying a period of history right now where we get to see what's really been going on. And when the tool of the enemy is to hide and deceive, then we need to take joy, even though it can be ugly to look at, when the ugliness begins to be exposed. Because the ugliness is being exposed so that the sons and daughters of God can stand up and say, this is our world. Our Father gave this to us. We lost it in the garden, but He gave it back to us through Christ, and now it is our place to stand up and be a voice against this stuff. And I really want to encourage you to stay not hyper news oriented, but to at least understand the narrative of what's going on in the world right now, because it is becoming more and more a beautiful ending to the cleanup effort that started at the cross, right? The victory was won, but we're just kind of cleaning up this world and renewing our minds and becoming who we were always called to be. So I bring up the Olympic ceremony to say that I was looking at a clip, and they had set up on a pedestal the big golden calf, right? I mean, they're not hiding it, guys, right? We all know that. I mean, the big elephant in the room, let's get it out of here. It's right there. This is Baal, the one they sacrificed children to. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, where have I seen this before? In Exodus chapter 32. When the Israelites are brought out, they're rescued. All the miracles happen. God is providing supernaturally. Their leader, Moses, goes up the mountain to receive the Ten Commandments. And while they're up there, they get impatient and they try to create their own form of God, their own image of what had already been leading them out. It wasn't that they were trying to find another deity. They wanted to take the deity that had been rescuing them and conform it into an image that they had, and that was the bull. That was the image that they had from the Egyptian gods, right? And so here it is, sitting right up here at this Olympic ceremony. Here it is, sitting right up at a pedestal at the foot of the mountain when Israel turned from God and decided to worship this golden calf made of their own hands. And so it is the same thing that we have seen reciprocate throughout history over and over again. And so don't freak out about it. It's just humanity being humanity. It's just sin being sin. But again, celebrate that God is saying, look, here's what happened in the past. Here it is happening again. I took care of it at the cross, but part of what I did at the cross was empower you to come and bring the final victory so that this world can be what it was always meant to be. Belong to the sons and the daughters of God, that we would rule and reign with him. And so the elements of the world are the same elements. And I know a lot of you have heard a lot of this stuff, but they're the same elements that have always been around. So fear not. Don't think, oh, how could this be happening in our generation? Go study your history. It happens. But what are we going to be willing to do that might be different than ways the church has responded in the past? I think God is bringing us to a place. He's saying, what do you want to do with your generation? You're my sons. We're supposed to be maturing. We've had a lot of talk about that. What do you do with a child as they mature? Once in a while, what changes is instead of just coming and telling them what to do, sometimes you might pose to them a question. What do you want to do? And I feel like the Lord is posing to us a question. What do we want to do? Who do we want to be? Do we want to be the fullness of what his word says that we are? Or do we want to just continue to try to live in modern Christendom and go through the motions? Problem with that is you're going to run out of room pretty soon to live that life, because when the spiritual atmosphere, that intensity continues to increase, there's not a lot of room for this wishy-washy life that we call Christianity. It's a surrender. It's a love affair. It's falling completely for him and walking side by side with him at all times. That's what he's calling you to. That's what he's calling us to, right? And in Romans chapter 8, I love it when it tells us that he works all things for the good of those who love him. You know this one, don't you, Lori? And are called according to his purpose. So he has called you to something. He's called you to something more than what you've seen before. He's called you to something more than what you have been. None of us are currently fully living the life that he has for us. There's more. There's more joy. There's more freedom. There's more healing. There is more authority. All of these things are like right here. And I don't know about you, but I look around at my own life at times, and I look around at people in the church that I know, and I love them, but I'm like, how are you still sitting on your spiritual couch and sleeping? I don't understand what else God has to do to wake us up. I feel like we don't have to get poked any further to get woke up if we don't want to. He's saying the opportunity to fully wake up to who you are is right before you. The opportunity to fully function in the full expression of that identity lays right before you. The question is, do you love me more than these? Do you want me more than these? Are you willing to trust that Even though you don't know everything that's going to happen, are you willing to trust that you've come to know me enough that you can say yes to the whole thing? Because that's where you can come and release into that full surrender and begin to walk in a greater expression. So he's taking everything that's happened in this world since the beginning. He's taking everything that's happening on the bigger scene right now, even the ugly stuff, and he's working it together. He's weaving a tapestry, right? So that we can see his goodness in everything. Everything that's ever been, good or bad, however you want to label it, will come under the umbrella of being covered by his goodness. All of it is covered by his goodness because that is the nature of who he is. He cannot be anything other than that. It is only our decision to make. What do you want to do? So ask yourself, what are the areas in your life? And I'm not just talking about do's and don'ts. I'm talking about the things in your life that may be impeding you from stepping in to the greater identity of who you are. You might say, well, I don't know who I really am. I don't understand how to be this son or daughter of God and manifest all these things in the Bible. Then what's missing is a deeper place of intimacy with him. And it's not that there's anything wrong with the relationship you have now, but there is a deeper place of knowing, because the more you will know him and the more you will surrender to him, the more the imprint of who you are and the motivation, the inspiration, everything that will cause you to live and express who God has made you to be. I just think if in this moment the Lord would just rip the heavens open and everyone would have a full-on understanding of who he is and who you are, not one of us would behave the same way. There would be a change. There would be a difference. So what's stopping us from seeing him in that manner? Do we have to have some big, huge encounter? Or can you go into the secret place with the Lord and cultivate a relationship with him and have the heavens rent for you and begin to see who he is, and so you see who you are? See, it might not happen in a big, exciting church service. It might not happen in a big prayer meeting. It might just happen when you have dedicated yourself to just spending time with Abba Father and loving him and being with him. Those are the places where he will begin to share his secrets. He'll begin to expose, this is who I designed you to be. This is your DNA. This is the book, according to Psalms, that was written of you before you were even born, and begin to unfold those things. And then you just take his hand and you just walk by it, and everything works out for the good, right? Even the bad stuff. I'm watching in my life at this point, things that were harmful in the past. Not that they're good things now, but I'm watching how God's weaved this tapestry and things beginning to happen in relationships and some things. And I'm like, man, I never would have thought you would have brought this all the way back around. I never would have thought you would have used this challenging or even sinful experience to eventually bring it around for my good. But man, the goodness of the Lord, who he is, and his love for you. Do not feel condemned. Do not feel beat up because you might not be where you're supposed to be. Feel inspired that I get to go be who I'm supposed to be. That he's just like a little kid. He's just patting you on the fanny saying, go, go, go. There is nothing but like a big smile on his face and open arms. Doesn't matter what you've done, the blood covers it. It has cleansed it, and you're victorious. And we're victorious, right? Amen. All right, let's stand.